Time now for another vlog. And if you have a vlog suggestion that I have yet to do, feel free and send it my way. But first, as always, be sure and check the vlog playlist first over on the vlogs channel, because there's always a very real possibility I may have already done the vlog suggestion already. But if I haven't, then you can send your vlog topics my way via the comment section, Twitter, Facebook, or Discord. And if you want it to be anonymous, we can do that too. Just DM me via the social medias. That works as well. So all the links to the Go Burns Nation below in the description section. Today's vlog is about things being unfair. I'm sure throughout your life, you've probably uttered those words before for whatever rhyme or reason. I know I have as well. Oh, that was unfair. This is unfair. Oh, come on. That's unfair, man. Life can be unfair sometimes. That is a sad reality that a lot of us already know. And it could be for a variety of reasons. First off, let's start off with genetics. Prime example. My mom was short. I know this because that's what people told me. She was like 5 foot tall. And because she was short, genetically, that makes me short. Whereas my dad, I see my dad was probably average height. But because of the fact my mom was short, that means I was somewhere in the middle. Like 5'5". Whereas when my dad eventually remarried after my mom passed away, he remarried actually twice. But my second stepmom, they had a couple daughters, my sisters, which I'm very grateful for. But their mom was taller than my mom. So genetically, my sisters are taller than me. One of them's 5'7", the other one's like 5'10". So right there, that's unfair because genetics, right? Yeah, I'm short because of genetics. Thank you, DNA. And the reason why it's been an issue for me when it comes to my height is another factor that's unfair. Is traditionally, it's a lot more difficult for shorter guys to get into relationships. It does happen, obviously, but statistically, it's more difficult for us to find somebody because naturally, women, not all women, but women do want to be with a taller guy. But the problem is whenever the girl's already shorter than you and she's like 5 foot or 5'1" or 5'2", and yet you being 3 or 4 inches taller than her is not good enough. Despite all the common interests, despite the potential there for something, you're just not tall enough for her. She wants somebody that's like ridiculously taller than her. Maybe it's a genetics thing. Maybe she's thinking, you know what? I want my kids to be tall. I don't know. And they ain't going to be tall with this guy. I don't know, but still, like I said, it's unfair. But that's reality. And also, there are going to be women out there. I have yet to find one. Well, I've had a few girlfriends that it didn't really bother them. At least they never told me it bothered them. But there are girls out there that don't really consider that to be an issue. The irony is they're usually around the same height as me or maybe even a little taller, which I don't mind. Look, I'm not against dating a taller girl, but at the same time, a taller girl wants to be with a guy around her height or taller. And it's more difficult for taller women as well because of that factor. Because most guys want to be the tall guy in the relationship. Not me. I mean, as long as everything else that works for us, the chemistry, compatibility, and ends up working out, and say, hypothetically, we settle down and we have kids, and my wife or the mother of my children happens to be taller than me, that's good for my kids because that means my kids will be taller than me. So it goes back to genetics. But for me at the moment, that's something that's definitely unfair is my height. But we always have to look at the grass being greener on the other side. Even though I'm shorter, I'm also consider myself to be pretty smart, pretty bright. At least I think I'm smart. Maybe I'm not. But I also have a decent looks. I have dreamy blue eyes. I have a nice thick brown head of hair. It's very, women like it. I've been told by a few. And obviously my sexy radio voice, So we all have our pros and cons. But the problem is, I think we tend to focus on the negatives. And when we see somebody else that has something that we want, whether it's a relationship or a better car or a better home or a better job or a better career, then we see it as unfair. And a lot of times you have to wonder, well, how the hell did that happen? Going back to relationships real quick. I've seen plenty of girls with guys and plenty of guys with girls that treated them like crap, that were horrible. And yet you wonder, well, how the heck did that happen? Why is he with her when she treats him like that? Or why is she with him when he treats her like that? And when they're like POSs, slobs, worthless, deadbeats, and yet somehow they manage to get into a relationship with somebody that seems relatively decent, somebody I wouldn't mind being with, and yet for some reason I'm still single. It does seem a bit unfair. But at the same time, I would like to make this point. From my experience in life, even though it does suck to be single, I would rather be single and happy some of the time, or most of the time, than in a miserable relationship or terrible marriage. Because I've been in a few bad relationships. I've been in some pretty good ones too. Didn't work out, but at the same time, you have to always look at it the other way, right? Instead of like, oh man, it's so unfair, I don't have anybody. I wish I had somebody. Then again, could always be worse. Moving on from relationships, let's talk about what people have and don't have. Some people are lucky to be born in better parts of the world, or better cities, or families that are more financially stable than others. And unfortunately, there's definitely plenty of people out there not as fortunate. They're born in poverty. They're born in lower class, in cities with really bad unemployment, higher crime rates, and not just cities, but also countries throughout the world. And some countries obviously are freer than other countries. Some countries respect human rights more than other nations. And in this situation, a lot of people, just like with genetics, you really don't have much of a say or really a choice where you're born or who your parents are. But there are definitely very good parents in the world of third world countries. And that's one thing that you should be grateful for. Even if you do live in a lower income family or in a less ideal part of the world, or in a country where things aren't so easy, it sucks, it's horrible. I wish things were better throughout the world for everybody. But it goes back to, once again, being grateful for the good things that we have in our lives. And unfortunately, the world does revolve around money. That's just a sad reality we live in, for more or less. And there are people out there that got a ridiculous amount of money for whatever rhyme or reason, whether they actually invented something, or they wrote a best-selling book, or they worked hard, they earned it, or they just managed to get lucky. They beat the system. They cut corners. They were just at the right place at the right time. They were smart enough, clever enough to make a quick buck. Or they just happen to be lucky enough to be born into money, to be an heir, because their parents or their grandparents, worked hard to make a fortune, and they've been able to benefit from it. Like trust fund kids, or even some reality stars, and a lot of them don't deserve the spotlight. They don't deserve the attention they get. They don't deserve the subscribers or the followers or the endorsements. That's unfair, because you definitely have a lot of people out there in the world that are, I would say, better. And I'm not saying we're all perfect. I'm not saying that nobody has issues. I'm just saying that a lot of the reality stars, with a few exceptions, the truth is it is unfair that they get what they get. But at the same time, they get all this attention, and that's what they crave, and that's what they desire. And I guess be careful what you wish for, because I'm sure there's certain aspects of being a reality star, or constantly being in the spotlight, that turns out working against you. And we've seen that happen before too, with people making dumb comments on Twitter or YouTube, and it blowing up, going viral, going against them like tenfold, ruining a lot of people's careers and livelihoods, by the way, because they just don't seem to think before they tweet or make a video. Maybe the case is true for me sometimes, I don't know. But at the same time, I don't care. I just try to be completely honest with everyone that actually takes the time to watch my content. And that's another point I would like to bring up about things being unfair. Now, there is some very good YouTube channels out there. And there's obviously a lot of really bad ones. And now the bad ones somehow manage, not all of them, but there definitely are plenty of bad ones that manage to get a ton of views and subscribers and money. And you wonder, like, well, how the hell did this dummy get so many viewers or subscribers when you have, like, much better channels out there, much better quality content creators and streamers doing far worse and making less views and subscribers than these other clowns? Case in point would be, let's see, what was her name? Claire Wineland. Now, obviously, she was quite popular, very well known, and an inspiration to a lot of her subscribers, viewers, and fans. The unfair thing about her life is the fact that it was tragically cut short because of something she was born with, various health issues, including her lungs. And what's very sad about that story is the fact that she died a week after getting a lung transplant. And even though I wasn't that well versed with her, because there's a ton of content creators out there on YouTube doing numerous types of videos. But from what I read about her, she was a very good person. Her fans loved her, adored her, and it's unbelievable and unfair that she's been taken at such an early age when she probably had a lot more to contribute to this world. And only being able to live for 21 years, that seems very unfair. And that happens all the time. I had a friend back in school when I was a kid. I went away for the summer, like I usually did, to go spend time with my grandparents. And I came back, and my dad told me that while I was gone, he and his mom were at a traffic light, and a truck driver, I don't know what the deal with the truck driver was. I never got the full story there. I guess he swerved and happened to run over their car, and the mother was injured, but most of the truck ended up on the right side of the vehicle, and that's where the son had been sitting. You know, because in the United States, drivers on the left side, the passengers on the right side in the front seats. And that's where my friend was, Daniel. And he was only 14 years old, and he was crushed to death by a big rig. They had to have a closed casket. Now, that seems pretty unfair, in my opinion. A few other stories I could share of unfairness is someone I used to work with in radio. He was the producer of the morning show, and he had to take a month off, and I filled in for him during that month because he and his wife at the time had a baby, and within a few days, the baby died of SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome, I believe. And she'd only been alive for a few days in this world, and then she was gone, and she had an open casket, but it was so weird to see her. It was like a baby porcelain doll in this tiny little casket. And this little person just came into this world and had her whole life ahead of her. And she was only around for a few days. And there have been plenty of stories of, you know, babies that only lasted a few days or a few weeks or a few months, or they make it to a certain age because of certain health issues, and then they die. My sister's ex-husband had a son, and he only lived to... The son had a serious health issue. I don't know exactly what it was, but it confined him to a wheelchair. And he only lived to, I think, be like 11 before he finally passed away. And so, even though he was, at the time, my sister's stepson, you know, he still meant a great deal to her and to those that were part of his family. And it's a tragedy that young boy didn't get a chance to grow up, because he'd probably, I think he might be an adult by now. And you hear these stories all the time of how unfair and how cruel the world can be. And I've had to deal with that personally as well. As I mentioned, my mom passed away when she was only 25 years old due to another genetic condition known as fatty liver disorder. And it's something I have as well because it's hereditary. It's passed on from mother to child. And at the time, they didn't know much about the liver as they do now. And, she liked to party in the 70s. Of course, a lot of people partied in the 70s. Her first husband was very abusive, and she drank a lot. But, I mean, she drank anyways. And I think it took a toll on her liver. And unfortunately, they just couldn't properly prescribe what was wrong with her, or a solution to her health issue, because obviously there was something wrong with her. And I guess they started going to doctors shortly after I was born, her and my dad, her second and last husband. But the doctor, I think, prescribed her something that potentially made things worse, and unfortunately, she died of liver failure. Or maybe that was going to happen anyways. And it was unfair for me and her. It was unfair for her because she died at 25, whereas she should have been able to live at least a little bit longer lifespan. It was unfair for me because I lost my mom at such an early age. And I have no memories of my mom. I never will. All I know about my mom is what people told me about her. So in that regard, it's very unfair. And from a different perspective, at least my mom got to live 25 years. Unlike, people that have got to live less fair, lives. As we've mentioned already. That little baby girl that only lived a few days. Didn't even get to have a life. Or somebody confined to a wheelchair. And yeah, life, as we may have pointed out in this vlog, can be extremely unfair. It most definitely can be. But at the same time, we have to be grateful for the life that we have. We have to be grateful for the things that we have, because we tend to focus on the negative. It's always there, the negativity. And I think we allow that to get the better of us. And I realize that some of the things we talk about in one vlog, you probably have heard me mention before in other vlogs. Broken record, I guess. But I also have that same condition that my mom has, as I pointed out, the fatty liver disorder. And it's something I've been struggling with most of my adult life. And I have good days and bad days. And I recently have been really trying to do a better job taking care of myself. A few months ago, I did slip a little off the wagon. I had a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of beverages. It's unfair because most people's liver could easily handle what I drink. It's not like I'm a hard drinker. It's just I happen to like a little hard cider every now and then. But even that is not good for me. Even that makes my liver cranky with me. So I, once again, had to motivate myself to stop drinking and start eating healthier. And another thing I've decided to do was cut back severely on snacks and sweets and as much sugar out of my system as possible, because I think that's another issue I've been having, preventing me from losing more weight. And I'm working on that, trying to do more cardio, trying to eat better. And the good news is, despite the fact that I do have fatty liver, the liver is a remarkable organ. It has the ability to regenerate and heal itself as long as you take good care of it and you give it the right materials necessary for a healthy liver. So I'm still here. I'm still breathing. It does suck that I can't drink, but at the same time, the truth is drinking is overrated anyways. And it's just, most of the time, people like to do it to escape from whatever unfairness is happening in their lives. Some people drink to have a good time, but in the end, you end up paying for it in the long run anyways. But there are definitely people out there that easily drink way more than I've ever drank on a regular basis. And, they're able to go on for 50, 60, 70 plus years because, genetics work to their advantage when it came to their liver. But we should be grateful for what we do have. If you are healthy, be grateful that you're healthy, because there are definitely a lot of people out there that aren't as healthy as you. There's definitely a lot of people that are worse off than you. And I realize that there are things in your life that probably aren't so good. And yeah, it is unfair that there are people out there that do have it better than you, whether it's health-wise or financially, or if they happen to be taller than you, or they just happen to have something that you always wanted, yet you don't have yet. at the same time, you have to be grateful for what you do have. And we should be grateful to be alive. We should be grateful that we're here. While we are allowed to be here on this big, beautiful world, once again, going back to previous vlogs, appreciating what we have and what we need to do a better job taking care of our world. But we should all be grateful for the time that we get on this planet. Because, I mean, some of you may be able to live to a ripe old age of 80, 90, 100. And some of us won't. And truth is, I could be gone tomorrow or next week or next year. Hopefully I'll be around long enough to at least play Red Dead Redemption 2. But at the same time, even though my mom passed away at 25, even though I don't have any memories of her, I'm still grateful for the life that she gave me. And I'm grateful for the life my grandfather helped me have. If it wasn't for my grandfather and the hard work he did, you know, I wouldn't be as fortunate as I am right now. And I'm also grateful for the fact that I do have my sisters. I do have some friends. Not a lot of friends, but quality over quantity. And I'm also grateful for those family members that I care about. And in that way, I'm very, very lucky. But at the same time, there are definitely times when I wish I had somebody special in my life. Maybe it's just not meant to be. Or maybe I've yet to find them. I don't know. Does it feel unfair sometimes that other people have that? Yeah, it does. But then there's plenty of people out there in a miserable relationship or in a miserable marriage, and they can't get out of it for whatever rhyme or reason. And I'd rather be single than in one of those, as I mentioned earlier. And I wish that my channel was larger, my gaming channel. I mean, I would like for this channel eventually to get bigger too, but I do this because I enjoy talking about things. There are things on my mind that I think about, and I feel that it's kind of a legacy of mine, a place where my thoughts are being recorded until YouTube decides to delete this channel forever. Hopefully not. But it's also a place where my viewers, subscribers, fans, family, friends, those that care about me, ever want to hear my opinions about things, it's a good place to go to find them, because I've made quite a few vlogs over the past 2 years. And I'm fortunate that I have a place to at least put my thoughts, my views and opinions. Not only for my own, I guess, self-therapy, it's also good to potentially help others. At the very least, entertain you, inform you, maybe even educate you a little, maybe even inspire you. I mean, that's what I hope to accomplish with these vlogs. And on the other channel, you know, I really wish that that channel was bigger. And it is unfair that I see other channels, for whatever rhyme or reason, fly right past me. I've, once again, mentioned this before. I know, broken record, go Burns. And you do everything you can, right? You do everything you can. And I've had so many failures in my life. I try to do this, I try to do that, and every time I feels like I just keep getting knocked in my butt. And I would get depressed about it. I would try to pick myself up, dust myself off, try to find something new to do, get into it. The same thing would happen again, you know, trial and error. And I always believed that eventually I would find my purpose. Eventually I would find my path. Eventually all this, you know, working hard and trying to make something of myself and being knocked down and getting back up again and being humbled and gaining experience, wisdom, and knowledge along the way would eventually lead me to something. And the reality is it's a very tough place to be in right now as a content creator and a streamer on YouTube. It is. Because there's so many people out there that want to be content creators and streamers. And 4 years ago, I didn't really think much of that. I just wanted to continue making content. Before that, I made political content. And I helped my dad with his channel as well when he was alive. You know, because he was a cannabis legalization advocate. So I helped him with his channel while at the same time doing my political channel. Of course, I got burnt out with politics and still am, even though there are times when I entertain the idea of trying to get back into it. at least trying to find a way to get back into it on my terms, which is rather difficult in this day and age because it's just so divisive now, the world we live in, especially in my country. Ugh. Gets worse every day, it seems. But originally when I started that other channel, you know, I just did it because I wanted to make content, because I saw other gamers out there making content, and I have skills from radio, from YouTube, from being a gamer, and I thought it made sense for me. And I've enjoyed the journey over the past 4 years. I've made some friends. I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of great content. I've made some stuff that I'm not as proud of, but I've always tried to do my best, and I feel like I've gotten better over the years. But at the same time, it does suck when you see other content creators fly by you, and they haven't been doing it as long as you have. And there's always the hope that I'm still meant to do this, and eventually it'll happen for me. But at the same time, I have to continue humbling myself, keep myself in check, because I have to be my own self-critic, or else all of it would go to my head. And I have to be grateful for the fact that I do have anybody at all watching my content, whether it's over here on the vlogs channel or over on the gaming channel. So I am grateful for the subscribers and the viewers and the fans and the members that I do have. But there's always this part of us that wants a little more, just a little more. And you feel like if you do good enough, you put out good enough content and you have a good enough delivery. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm far from it. But to see others that, in my own personal opinion, aren't as good as me, from what I'm trying to deliver, that are using cheap tactics like clickbaiting and even worse, get more views and subscribers and grow their channel larger than mine, it makes me upset, perturbed, and it's unfair. It's absolutely unfair. And the YouTube algorithms doesn't exactly help in that regard either. So, yeah. And I'm not saying I'm a good YouTuber at all. I mean, this is probably the best stuff I put out there is my vlogs, because at least hopefully this stuff actually helps people. The gaming channel informs people of new updates or new information regarding Red Dead Redemption 2 or Grand Theft Auto Online event weeks, or entertains people through the live streams, or ranting about various things, like yesterday with the PlayStation 4 Pro shortage in the US. Major first world problem, right? Exactly. While people throughout the world are struggling to survive, to put food on the table and eat and drink, you know, and have a roof over their heads and survive, what am I ranting about? Freaking PlayStation 4 Pro console. Like I said, the grass is always greener on the other side. So what may seem unfair to you could very well be unfair. But at the same time, we have to be grateful for the things that did go our way in our lives, the things that we're fortunate to have. And that especially goes when it comes to losing people, is we tend to dwell on what we've lost, whether it's our job or our girlfriend, our boyfriend, a loved one that have passed away. In the relationship, I meant like dumping you, or, and you know what I meant. But we should be grateful for what we have. Like, eventually, you know, if you have pets, eventually you're going to lose your pets. They're going to die. But be grateful for the memories you have with those pets. Be grateful for those people and pets that you still have. Be grateful for the life you still have. Be grateful that you don't have the problems that others have. Because no matter how bad I may have things, no matter how bad you may have things, and I'm not trying to belittle what you're going through in your life, not at all. But always bear in mind that no matter how unfair things may seem to us, it can always be worse. From my perspective, it's unfair to me because of chemistry and compatibility. You know, where you believe, okay, this person, I seem to have some things in common, some similar likes, and they're obviously attractive, and you think that all the boxes checked, you think it would work out, but it doesn't. I have a new saying for dating. Like, if you swipe right for somebody, they'll swipe left for you, but if you swipe left for somebody, they'll swipe right for you. It's similar to the George Costanza quote from Seinfeld. You know, one of his infamous lines. He had plenty during the show. I know it's an ancient sitcom by today's standard, but still, he'd always talk about like when I like them, they don't like me, and when they like me, I don't like them. It's the same premise. I just have to embrace the fact that if I'm ever meant to have somebody, they'll appreciate all my good qualities, because I do have a lot of good qualities that plenty of people out there wish they had. And I'm not trying to put myself up on a pedestal. I'm actually one of my own worst critics. But I do recognize that we all have good qualities, that we all have something to contribute, something to bring to the table. And, you know, I'm sure there's people that are jealous of me for that. There's probably people like, oh, it's unfair that he has, you know, such nice thick hair and my hair's falling out and he has such dreamy blue eyes, or he has a sexy radio voice. Yeah, I know. It's unfair. Because it's so easy for me to get down in the dumps about being short. Instead, I should be like, you know what? At least I'm not banging my head up against the top of a door, or because being tall is kind of a curse as well. I have several tall friends, and we've had this discussion before, and they're like, you know what? If I could, I would give you a few inches so I could be a little shorter. I don't want to be as short as you, but I would like to be a little bit shorter. So it's definitely, it goes both ways when it comes to being a tall person or a short person. It doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl. So yeah, it can be unfair for different reasons. I don't have a problem with money. I don't have a problem with people having money. But what I do take issue with is how much money do you really need to survive? I mean, if it's gotten to the point now where you're whining about not having a new yacht or a new private jet or only a couple mansions, then maybe you have too much money. Because the truth is, most of us out there in the world, most people, are lucky to have one home, are lucky to have an apartment or a condo or a roof over their head. Most people are lucky to have one vehicle that might actually work and get them from point A to point B every day. Not everybody has a Lamborghini or a Bugatti or a Ferrari or a Rolls Royce. Most people don't. And yet you see all these reality stars that come from money, or else they act like they come from money, and they don't exactly have their priorities straight. They're always whining about how life's unfair. Like, oh, it's unfair that so-and-so is a better plastic surgeon than me, or it's unfair that so-and-so has a nicer dress than me, and that shit's a bunch of nonsense. Because there's real things in life that people are justified in complaining about, and those things are not the case. There's definitely people out there that have been given some bad cards from the very beginning. But at the same time, we also get good cards along the way. It's just you have to be mindful of that. You have to realize that not all the cards that are dealt are bad, but a lot of those cards aren't good either. There are people out there today just living it up, right? Drinking and doing drugs and partying all the time. And some of these people, they end up ODing at an early age in their 20s or 30s. And some end up living to their 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s. It's unfair how that works, because you think theoretically if you took really good care of your body, you would live longer. And statistically, that's true. If you take really good care of your body and don't abuse it and try to eat healthy as you can and exercise and have cardio and all that stuff and drink plenty of water, theoretically, it should improve your chances of having a longer, healthier life. But that's not always the case. And on the flip side, there are people born not only into poverty, born not only into terrible neighborhoods or situations like that. There are also people that are born with health problems that is beyond their control. I forgot her name, so I do apologize. She was born with that aging disease that rapidly ages her, that makes her look like Maz Kanata from the new Star Wars films. It kind of makes her look like that. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just giving you guys a visual. And she's only like in her, I don't even know if she's in her teens. I think maybe like her tweens. I don't know. She's not very old. But it's sad that she was born with that condition. And there's been several others born with the same condition. I've seen it before, tragically. And I don't think that any kid deserves to be born with that, because it automatically means that they're not going to be able to live a full life. They don't have the potential to live that life in order to grow up and go off to college or trade school or wherever they want to go to get higher education and pursue whatever career they want to get into, and maybe eventually find somebody special and, build a future with. People with various terminal conditions like cancer and other issues out there, it really does take away their life, their opportunity to eventually do what most people should be allowed to do, to live their life from birth to ideally an old age. But that's just the way life is. Life is unfair. And I know that from personal experience. Death comes for us, and it doesn't exactly have a rule book. It's not like, well, you're not old enough yet. Everything I know about my mom is from what other people told me. And from my perspective, it's unfair for several reasons. It's unfair because I never got to know my mom. I don't have any memories of my mom. Whereas my dad, the 2-year anniversary of his death is coming up in sometime this week. And that's also unfair too. But he died. How old was he? Early 60s. He died. But the difference is I had memories of my dad. I still have memories of him, of growing up with a father. And, the good memories, the bad memories. He wasn't perfect, but I doubt my mom was perfect either, because none of us are perfect. But at least when it comes to my dad, I still have those memories to take with me. The same cannot be said about my mom. But in hindsight, bad things happen, and eventually good things happen as well, and vice versa. Eventually, my dad did remarry, and my second stepmom and him had a couple of daughters, and thanks to that marriage, even though it didn't last, I have several sisters. So I have several awesome sisters. 3 of them to be precise. One of them is a stepsister, but I still consider her to be a sister. I mentioned this before. And my other 2 sisters, and they mean a great deal to me. So it's unfortunate, it's unfair that I lost my mom at an early age, but at the same time, I do have my sisters, and I do have people in my life that I care about, and that's one thing that you have to focus on in a situation like that, is you have to think about the people you have left. Because I'm guilty of this. I tend to focus on loss, and it's something I've had to deal with for a while now. A while. Every year the anniversary of my mom's death comes up, it hurts a little less, but it's still there because of the fact that there's this huge chunk missing from my life. And even though I do have my sisters, it still sucks not having my mom. But there's plenty of people out there in a similar situation that were given up for adoption. They'll never know their parents. And then I had another very good friend of mine who was like an older brother to me. He was a great guy. And I was very close with him and his family. In fact, I had a little thing for his sister one time. We were the same age. We still are the same age, but anyways, feeling was obviously not mutual. But I still thought the world of him, and he was a good guy, but he was diagnosed with leukemia. So he went through all the treatments trying to get over leukemia, and even his other brother was able to donate bone marrow to help him, and he nearly got over it. But I think because of an allergic reaction to some sort of medication they gave him, unfortunately he died at 30, and that was very hard. Obviously, it was hard for me, but it was extremely hard on his parents and on his sister and brother. And I think that it's something they're still having to endure to this day, and it's something that we all have to deal with. We have to deal with the tragedy of loss, of losing loved ones, because you would like to believe that they're still going to be around, years and decades later, and hopefully you get to grow old together. That's the way it's supposed to be, but alas, it's not. So yeah, life can be very unfair. It does seem unfair. But at the same time, it's just the way it is. That's just the way life is. We have no all we can do is the best that we can in life. You know, just do the best you can, and hope that at the end of the day it works out as it's supposed to, for better or worse. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of unfair stuff going on in the world. We should be grateful for what we do have, even if in certain circumstances it is unfair. But at the same time, it could always be worse.